Hi, I'm George Pino, CEO of Commercial Brokers International, and thank you for joining us today. And we actually have a special treat. I have Lee Boddie here, who is part of our brokerage team in Los Angeles, and he's going to talk about the top 3 opportunities for both landlords and tenants in the current marketplace. So I hope you enjoy, and if you do enjoy, don't forget to subscribe. All right, thanks. Lee, how are you doing today?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having me this morning.
Absolutely. So, I think this is really valuable information that we're going to have going off into the different opportunities that have for tenants, because there's a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty with everything that's happened in the last year with the pandemic. So, I think that this guidance is really important to see that there's still opportunities that are available for both tenants and landlords. So, what would you say?
So at number 3, we saw many tenants looking at reassessing their space needs, and we saw something very unique that we hadn't saw in the market for quite some time, or if at all. They were looking to share space and collaborate with other brands. So, for example, I had a retail tenant that did apparel, and they did the clothing and the shoes and some merchandising. And instead of just having, say 2,000 square feet of space just for them, they reached out to other brands that could possibly collaborate with them to gain market share from other brands, such as skincare brands, for example. So someone may be looking for lotions and certain cosmetics. Now they can shop in one space. They can pick up some lotions and makeups and that type of thing, but also now look for shoes and clothes. And what this does for the tenant is it reduces their cost for the lease. It also allows them to maybe gain market share from a brand it's consumer base that initially they didn't have, and also too it allows them to share marketing costs as well.
No, absolutely. I think. It sounds like that's almost a little bit off-take of some of the WeWork, where there was a lot of collaboration with different companies, and they saw that there was a benefit and some synergies there. It's nice to see that we're starting to see that also in the retail side and segment, and I think that we're going to see moving forward. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. It makes perfect opportunity. It can potentially allow a brand to really access another segment or another group of people, and with the synergies of a company that may have some light clientele, it'll be able to reduce some costs. So I think it's a great idea. So what else do you see happening?
The other thing I saw was subleasing opportunities. We're at an all-time high. You saw markets that typically, especially in some of the hotter markets, didn't have any subleasing available. Now you saw that double or triple in certain markets. And it allowed tenants to be able to now maybe not have to be locked into a 3-year lease or 5-year lease or something long-term. Maybe they can open up a new brand or a new spin-off brand and only have to operate within 1 year at a reduced cost.
So this is an opportunity perhaps for them to test market something new, perhaps even, or for possible expansion. So, maybe a space might become available right next door or right down the street, so they can share some of that, but then also add in with a different brand or different concept and see if that might work and expand as you go.
Absolutely. We had a national retail brand. They wanted to kind of come out with the sportwear instead of their upscale apparel that they currently had. And not only were they able to do that in kind of taking a space nearby, but they were to expand along in the same strip and same storefront, which causes the owner not to have to travel so much. And then also they can cross-collaborate in the marketing within the same space. Absolutely.
Probably also lower some of their distribution costs, because it's probably all coming from the same warehouse as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what do you see as the number one opportunity for tenants?
The big one.
The big one.
I would say the number one thing that we were able to see for tenants in the market was to be able to go from a Class B or C property to a Class A at roughly the same cost. Able to take your brand your brand's presence to a maybe more affluent or upscale market and not have to pay so much for it like you did before 2020.
Okay.
That was big. We saw a lot of on the retail and office side as well. Many of the offices that maybe had a smaller footprint, now they can expand their footprint for the same cost in a better market, maybe closer to some of the people that worked at the office, a little closer to home, but also too to be able to have a better presence, for their office and for their marketing purposes.
Okay. So, I think that's all, really good information, and I think there's some great opportunities for tenants there. But, I also have a lot of clients that, and you do as well, that are landlords and investors. So I'm sure they're looking, especially after the last year and everything that they've had to deal with and go through. What are some opportunities that you see for them coming up? That, let's do the same. Let's do the top 3 opportunities again for this time for landlords and investors.
Yeah, one thing that I saw that was really interesting. Many of my clients, the fact that they had some vacancies, they took a step back and utilized that time to upgrade and renovate their building. A lot of them configured the space to where they created mezzanines and certain, private office spaces within the office building. They kind of redesigned the retail space so that way you have your 6 feet in between, certain parties when you have, clients or customers in the building. So this also increased the value of their asset as well. So before, when the market was so much in demand, maybe they didn't have so much time to be able to do this. Now, being able to take a step back, they were able to reassess their needs, utilize this time to upgrade and renovate the building, which could increase costs later.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I could see them actually saving costs down the road too, especially if they're upgrading some of the systems that are perhaps a little bit more efficient these days. Maybe they have an old HVAC system that's 15, 20 years old, and just upgrading to a new system is going to save quite a bit on electricity. So, I think that's a great idea and great opportunities for some of the landlords. Number 2, what do you think number 2 is?
Number 2, I would say changing the use of the space. There were some industrial spaces that said, hey, we have some underutilized space. Maybe let's change some of it to upscale loft office space. So it was able to attract, a different tenant. Some of the tenants said, hey, I have an office downtown. Maybe I'm currently located in Burbank. Why not have some of that same shared space within this property and talk to the landlord about it?
Okay.
So I think changing your use, it allows you to also to diversify your portfolio a little bit. Maybe if a certain segment of the market, say office, softened a little bit, maybe creating some, warehouse space needs, zone permitting, would allow you to increase the rents and not maybe have to take on the hit that some people did in 2020. Be able to kind of balance that out and by changing some of the use in your current space.
Okay. So seeing a little bit more flexibility in the use, what people are doing, perhaps even in some submarkets. I know, like the West Side industrial market in Los Angeles, a lot of that's being converted to flex space or creative office space, even some retail in some areas. So that I think can definitely be an opportunity as well. So good recommendations. What about number 1? Because I think this is what everyone's been waiting for. The top opportunity for a landlord.
I would say the top opportunity that I saw was repositioning their asset. Maybe going from a retail strip center to something less involved, less management intensive. Maybe something more long term and stable. Instead of looking at rents for 5 years or 10 years, maybe getting into a single tenant triple net lease. Which is, it's your fast food brands, some of your larger institutionals, such as your banks, signing long-term leases, maybe not being as involved as you used to, but being able to kind of stabilize that asset and stabilize that value and kind of changing and reassessing your needs. We saw a lot of people do that. It ended up increasing a lot of returns for many investors. And for the most part, people are really happy with repositioning, and it was a really hot market during 2020 and leading into 2021.
Okay. Great ideas. I have a follow-up question for you. I'm going to throw you on the spotlight. Let's say I have a nice asset that is perhaps a a smaller 2 or 3 tenant retail center, and I have interest now in perhaps how would I track, like, let's say a 7-Eleven that may want to take in 4,000 square feet of that smaller strip center, or another operator, national operator, so I can convert that more into a single tenant net lease type situation with a credit tenant. What's the best way to actually attract those type of tenants?
So once you reposition to attract that tenant, well, the first thing you want to do is you want to study the market. I would say number one, study the market. And then also, once you study the market, know what the market needs and wants, and be able to predict that and look at the common trends that are happening in the area. You figure out where you are, what does the market need, what does it have already, and what maybe it will need in the future. And once you're able to figure that out, for example, if you're looking at a 7-Eleven, maybe it's by a university. Maybe it's near a new development, if you will. Figure out what that development is looking to bring in, and figure out what you can do to maybe expand your space. Some of those brands, such as the 7-Eleven, they're looking to reconfigure their footprint to add value. Maybe to that college tenant that can come in.
Sure.
Instead of maybe going to a big box grocery store, if you will, they can get some of that needs in the 7-Eleven by expanding to some of their new models and floor plans. So I think that's you definitely want to look at the market and look at what needs that you can provide to that tenant base or that client base in the market.
Okay, great recommendations. I always like to say also, make sure you have a agent in the area that you know that can help you actually understand what the current market conditions are. Because I can tell you that in my experience, a lot of those national retailers, they have all the data already available to them. They know the traffic counts, they know the demographics, they know the visits to the historically to that location or around the other areas. So you as a landlord, you need to have that same information if you're going to be playing on a same level playing field. And the best way to do that, unless you're going to subscribe to all the analytical data points, is to hire a good broker that has that ability to get you that information.
Absolutely.
So keep that in mind for anyone looking for any kind of retail or office leasing needs, or even some investment needs. Please keep in mind Lee here, and we're going to make sure that we get his contact information up on the video, so you can just reach out directly to him. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your knowledge and your experience, and more importantly, the top 3 opportunities for both tenants, landlords.
Thank you. Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me.
Thanks.